Hey guys, it's time.
Time to make the donuts. Your donuts make me go nuts.
Today we're making donuts. I got 3 kinds: chocolate, cinnamon sugar, and maple bacon. Let's do it. The first thing we have to do is cook our bacon for our maple bacon donuts. I prefer to oven bake my bacon. And folks, if you're not doing this, you're just missing out. The cook is a lot more even on the bacon, and the cleanup is a hell of a lot easier than using a pan. So let's get these in a 375-degree oven while we make our batter. All right, and for our batter, we're gonna start with a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and I let that cool a little bit, which actually caused some of it to solidify in the bottom of the bowl and had to be kind of forced in there. And then we got a cup of sugar, which we're gonna go ahead and stir this together to kind of get this blended first before adding 2 eggs and then a tablespoon of vanilla extract. And go ahead and stir that until well combined. In a separate bowl, we're going to get our dry ingredients, which are 2 cups of flour, 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, which I'm going to appreciate its lovely smell for a second. And of course, get everything nice and mixed together. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and go back on over to our bowl of wet ingredients, where we're going to mix in half of the dry ingredients first with an additional 1 cup of buttermilk. So go ahead and lightly mix these together first, and then from here we're going to go ahead and dump in the rest of that dry mix. So you want to go ahead and fold this as much as possible. Don't over mix it, just mix it until we see no more dry flour spots. Alright, our batter is looking good. I cannot see any more flour. So we're going to go ahead and get this into our piping bag, or I'm actually just using a gallon freezer baggie. And we're going to go ahead and lube up our donut pan. Take our freezer baggie, and I cut off one of the corners and just pipe that into the pan one at a time. Don't overfill, do about halfway up the side. Once we got that last one filled, let's go ahead and get that in a 425-degree oven for 8 minutes. When they come out, just test that they spring back without being too squishy. Dump them out onto a wire rack, and then I realized they are a little bit too small and also incredibly hot. I'm not sure why I picked that up. So let's get another set going and fill them up just a little bit more this time. And I realize now that that looks a little funny, but don't worry, once they get in the oven, that'll smooth out and you'll have perfect circles. Alright, our next set is done, and these are looking a lot better. Good spring back, not too squishy, so let's dump those out on the wire rack. And I did not learn my lesson from the first time and picked one up, and they were once again incredibly hot. So let's go ahead and use the rest of our batter. I was able to get out 4 more donuts with this amount, and let's get those in the oven and bake those off. And while those last 4 donuts bake, we're going to start by making some of our cinnamon sugar donuts. Whoops! So I'm taking our warm donuts, first dipping them in the melted butter, and then rolling them around in a mixture of 1/2 cup of sugar with 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. So you can go ahead and actually roll both sides here in the melted butter, because aside from your doctor, who doesn't love for you to have more butter? So go ahead and roll those in the cinnamon sugar after the butter and just put them aside. This one's actually very easy. And our last 4 donuts have baked. They're looking good. We're going to dump them out here with the rest of those donuts, and we're going to get started on our 2 glazes, the maple being first. So we got a 1/4 cup or 1/2 a stick of butter and a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. Now I forgot to record me doing it, but you're also going to need 3 tablespoons of milk, which actually isn't here at this point. So go ahead and get that nice and mixed up till it looks like that. And then I did do a few little tips just to make sure all the brown sugar got incorporated there. So just make sure everyone gets nice and mixed together. And then we're going to remove it from the heat, and we're going to go ahead and get in there 1 tablespoon of corn syrup, which I found is incredibly difficult, stubborn, finicky, whatever word you want to use. It sucked to get out of this little dish, so this took me quite a while until I actually just use a spoon. So we'll get our tablespoon of corn syrup, and then we're also going to factor in 2 teaspoons of maple extract. Alright, now let's whisk that together till it's well combined, and then we're going to do the next step, which is 2 cups of powdered sugar. But wait, we're only going to do about a half a cup at a time. So go ahead and dump a little bit in it first, and go ahead and make sure that first little batch is well incorporated. I'm going to go ahead and speed that up for you here so we don't have to wait too long. And just kind of rinse and repeat, add a little bit, mix it together, add a little bit, mix it together until you have all your powdered sugar well incorporated, and then we can move on to our next glaze. Alright, and our final glaze is going to be chocolate. So I've got a double boiler going here, and I'm not sure why I threw the hand up like that. So let's start with 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. And we're going to once again do a tablespoon of corn syrup, and it is once again being difficult to get out of this cup. So I hit it with the drummer hands until we got everything out of there. And then to that, we're going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of butter, and just go ahead and slowly get that mixed together. Alright, and in the end you should have something that looks like this. So go ahead and just give it a couple more stirs and take it off the heat, and let's get ready to coat these donuts. Alright, and making its triumphant return from the beginning of the episode is our bacon. So let's go ahead and get that on the cutting board and cut it up into tiny pieces to sprinkle on top of that maple glaze. And now a quick shot of all of our cooked donuts, and here's our dipping station. So we're going to start by stirring up that maple glaze, because once it's off the heat, that does get hard rather quickly. And that's what she said. So go ahead and roll that donut around in the maple glaze and get it over to our plate, where we're going to go ahead and drizzle some of that chopped bacon right on top of it. Now, just like with the maple glaze, go ahead and give the chocolate glaze a little bit of a stir first, and then roll one of your donuts around a few times, make sure it's nice and coated. And that's pretty much it. Just rinse and repeat with all your remaining donuts, and you're left with 3 different types of donuts that were pretty easy to make. We got our cinnamon sugar, our maple bacon, and of course our classic chocolate covered. Well guys, that is it for this week's episode of What Can We Eat? I do appreciate you guys watching and the continued support, and we will see you again next week.